like a Mr. Rogers vibe going on.
I do, Mr. Rogers.
What's the number?
53.
Don't you want to confirm that?
Sure. 53. What am I confirming?
It's 53.
53. What a great year.
Why?
I don't know. My grandparents were seniors in college and getting ready to
How do you
like
know
each
that?
other and move here. Well, they moved here in 54. Welcome to Emotionships, where we talk about the real reason everything happens for a reason. I'm your host, Charlie Carroll, along with my chivalrous co-host.
You kind of stumble over that word.
Chivalrous co-host, Mallory Redmond. Welcome to the program, Mal.
Thanks.
Such a special episode. It is Mallory's birthday today. Happy birthday, Mal.
A little applause, please. Thank you.
Yeah. How do you feel?
Thanks, guys. Calm down. Calm down, guys.
Please stop.
Chill.
How do you feel?
I feel really good. I'm 37 today,
30?
which feels, it sounds old to me.
Yeah, upper 30s. You officially entered your upper 30s.
Yeah. I was just telling Gelman that 36 sounded old, 35 sounded, I mean, it all sounds old. 37 really sounds old, but I feel better because you're older. So I'm like, I feel like I'm still kind of a young fawn.
So right now, if you had to say, my energy is, I feel, boom, what's your number?
Powerful.
No, your number. Perfect. No. Your number. Like
What does that mean?
how old
my
do you
age.
Yeah, your age. How old do you feel? Biologically on the calendar, you're 37, but how old do you feel?
31.
Okay. 31.
That's what I would say. I don't know. That's just what I got energetically. Now, I always say 24.
Yeah.
When someone asks my age, that's the first number that pops in my head. But I had a very traumatic 24.
Yeah, so maybe that's not accurate.
I don't think it's accurate. I think I feel 31.
You have a snowstorm. God sent you a snowstorm here in Ohio on your birthday.
Yes, I know. My kid's daycare closed. It's like the worst text to wake up to.
Yeah. Don't ruin
I didn't
my
think
birthday.
The daycare ever closed. Yeah, lots of things are shut down.
Everywhere.
Winter birthdays, suck.
Yeah, I've got one. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh, everybody's miserable. Especially yours is better at least because it's around Christmas time, so people are excited.
There's a trade-off there.
There is no energy in February.
Yeah.
January and February, they're just terrible. So thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, I mean, they did their best. Last night we were at dinner as a family, and I don't know what I said, but maybe it was funny. And my oldest son, who's now 16, and getting his driver's license this Friday.
Today, you mean?
Yeah, today. Nailed it.
We're really good at pre-recording.
Yeah, he said that. He said, Dad, if you were this funny on the podcast, more people would watch.
How does he know? I'm sure he does not watch.
I'm sure he just sees those little clips on Instagram.
Yes, well, that's not our fault. Gelman picks the clips.
Gelman,
make us funny. Come on, man.
Poor Gelman, he got stuck in his driveway today.
Yeah, he did.
Lives out there in Indiana.
But how dedicated is he? He showed up.
He did. With the help of a few friends, pulled him out.
2 hours late, but showed up.
Yeah, no big
The kind
deal.
of dedication we like to see.
That's why we're going places.
Yeah.
Folks.
Look out, people.
Yep. Did you see? I mean, I don't want to get into a conversation about global warming because I'm not educated enough, but look at Texas. Wow.
Yeah.
Having a huge issue with the power grid down there in Texas. Shout out to all of you Texas listeners.
But you know what's wild is, it's like ice storm, snowstorm.
Yeah.
They're completely
Snow in
buried.
San Antonio.
And next week it's going to be 70 degrees.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into a conversation about global warming either, but I mean, something's happening.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, everyone seems to be in a shift. I mean, there are very few people that I talk to, and we can blame it on the pandemic all day long, but I mean, the majority of people out there that you talk with feel this energetic shifting happening in the world. It's wild. And maybe the pandemic.
What are you saying?
Well, I'm just saying.
What does that mean?
Where you said with the global warming, like, hey, we don't need to get into titles and politics, but there's definitely something happening.
Well, it's just it's sad because it's very hard to get into a conversation these days without someone. People are just way too black and white, black
For sure.
or white. And it's like, you can be a Republican or Democrat, blah, 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 and like still see some things as being accurate on the other side.
For sure.
It's absolutely insane.
I have a theory as to why that is, but I want to know before I give you my theory, which you don't have a choice. You have to listen to it. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there is less listening and more talking today? Like, if it's from the other side, I can't hear it, or they're automatically going to be wrong. What do you attribute that to?
Fear, pride.
Yeah, but I think it's more prevalent today than it's ever been. Would you say that's true or no?
I think it's true. It's hard to say. I think it's either true or we're just able to hear it more. I mean, social media, and we've talked about this before, has I think it's changed the landscape of politics, particularly.
Yeah, agreed.
And so people, if they're in one camp, it's like the other one, everything about the other one has to be wrong. And it's like, and then those same people are like calling out for unity. And it's like, okay, people, unity is not everyone coming and sitting in your camp. It's we can meet in the middle. Like, things about the quote unquote other side they can be right.
That's the big thing about tolerance that drives me nuts. That people think tolerance is, as long as you agree with me, like I will be tolerant of you as long as you agree with me.
Right.
And I think you're right that it's like a vortex or a vacuum that when we created the ability for a lot of voices to be heard, everyone thinks that their voice, that they deserve to be listened to. And as we said, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 10 episodes back, there's a difference between your right to be heard and your right to be listened to. Yeah. There's a big difference there. And so I think I also agree with the idea of fear, but I would attribute it back to insecurity, that as the nuclear family has deteriorated, young people have not had as much of an opportunity to be heard when they are young and listened to and invested in. And therefore, there's almost like this, I deserve to be listened to, damn it, mentality out there. And I'm going to give you my opinion if you like it or not. And if you don't like it, that's your problem. That's not my problem. And so I think, at least it's been my experience in business, that people don't know the difference between, yes, you deserve to be heard, but that doesn't necessarily you deserve to be listened to. And I think people really have a hard time when they feel like they're not being listened to. I think they have a hard time separating whatever their position is on that certain topic from their person. That's one of the things that we try to train and coach in some of the businesses that we're involved with. Like, I want you to speak up and tell me what your opinion is, and I want you to do it boldly and as if it's 100% true. But if we decide to go in a different direction, like, you can't shut down and take that personally. I mean, the sign of a mature person is someone that wants and is hungry for other people's opinion, and they don't take it personally and shut down and throw a pity party when people go the other way.
Right. Yeah.
But that's that position person thing. You've got to be able to state your position without attaching it to your sense of value to your person.
Yes. And so then when I think that when you do allow yourself to hear and maybe even agree with
Sure.
like somebody on the other side politically or whatever, it's so expansive because you can kind of let your guard down and not be so damn serious all the time of like, I have to be right. It has to go this way. Everybody has to agree with me. And when you can let yourself look at the other side and be like, actually, that's not like completely so far off.
Sure.
I feel like you're able to breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
I was, I'm taking baths a lot these days.
Oh, staying warm, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing it. I don't have a hot tub. And so last night, not all of us have hot tubs and Pelotons. So last night I was taking a bath and I was reflecting, because this is the thing that I do when I'm about to reach a new age. And anyways, I'll share more. I think I'll share maybe on Instagram or something. But I was thinking back to this very serious relationship I had, this boy that I've talked about him a lot, always in a negative light, because it was a very traumatic, the relationship ended very traumatically. But I was thinking how he was one of the first people in my life who helped me to see myself like with no makeup on and like not think terribly of my face. Like he saw me without makeup on and he was like, oh my gosh, you look so beautiful. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I felt very like exposed and vulnerable. And anyways, it was a sweet memory of him, which I've not had many of since we broke up 15 years ago. And I felt myself like be able to exhale a little bit and be like, okay, he was not all bad.
Yeah.
Like this is there was a lot of ways that he loved me well. And that's very hard to say when somebody hurts you.
Sure.
You just want to be in the camp of like, he sucks. He's horrible. He's the worst person in the world. All bad things should happen to him. And it's like, grow up, Mal, grow up a little bit. And so anyways, I think that when we're able to do that on a larger scale, whether it's personal relationships or on a broader scale of, politics or whatever, we're able to breathe a little bit. I'm having a very hard time finishing my sentence because you are distracted.
I'm sorry. I'm listening to everything that you're saying.
I'm telling like a really intimate story.
No, I'm listening.
Gosh. All right. What would you like to say?
No, I think you're right. And I think it illustrates, I'm actually trying to go live here on Instagram. That's what I was trying to do. Just to go live. But that's what it comes back to, this idea of like personal insecurity. Like it's hard to agree with someone else if you're so insecure about yourself that the moment they think differently or have a different opinion, you're going to take it personally. What?
Nothing. I'm waiting for you to finish.
Well, I mean, 22, I don't know why this is creating problems for me and it's not going live. Gelman, why is this not going live? Oh, sorry. But I mean, again, how do you get to the best possible answer when it comes to creating anything, especially answers for citizens and government, if your opinion has to be the right opinion?
And your opinion can be the right opinion, but you have to at least let yourself listen to other people. I mean, for the love, look at how angry people get when they don't feel listened to.
Oh, there we are. Thank you.
This better be worth it. It's really making the episode choppy.
Sorry. Everybody will forgive us here in a second.
Why? What are we doing?
No, as they're listening to it.
Oh, you're just holding the phone there.
Yeah.
You're not even saying anything.
Well, no, they're going to hear exactly what I'm saying. We're live on recording this episode of Emotionships, the podcast. It's Mallory's birthday, and we're talking about the importance of personal security and being confident in who you are, knowing who you are, and the downfall of being insecure and how that can get in the way because you can't separate your position from your person. And so when you are functioning within the realm of a team, you have got to be able to bring your position to the table confidently and state, this is how I think, or this is how I'm feeling in light of what I see or what I know. But when the team decides to go in a different direction, you can't take that personally. And you know, my experience of, 20 years in business would say that there is nothing more dangerous than personal insecurity. That when someone is personally insecure and they cannot think about their job or their task or their responsibility outside of what that means if someone doesn't agree with them, then you'll never be able to do your task really, really well. And I see this too when it comes to like taking the next step. Someone said something to me about this past weekend. They were working the Valentine's Day weekend, and they're relatively young, not far out of college, and they were just saying how they weren't super stoked about working on, a holiday or something that is really celebrated in this culture. And long story short, I just said the first step to becoming an owner is acting like one, having a mentality that just recognizes the further you go in life, like the more sacrifice is required. And so if you get asked to stay behind and polish wine glasses or to mop the floor, if you take that personally and have a victim's mentality that you don't deserve this or this isn't fair, it's not that it's necessarily bad. It's just going to hinder you from growing and having more opportunities in life. That every opportunity comes with a price or a cost.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the greatest, what's my word? Things somebody can do is let people see that they've changed their mind.
Sure.
I mean, I think that's so honorable when someone can say like, "Oh, actually, I do see what you're saying," or "I have changed my mind about whatever the position," or even that employee. Like, I know who you're talking about, and she came in and she owned it,
Sure.
and she was great. And so it's like, I don't think anybody's looking for perfection.
Well, diving into exactly what you said, that we change our mind or have to apologize just in the general culture is looked at as a weakness, when the truth of the matter is, like, I have learned that you should never, ever, 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 ever waste an opportunity to say you're sorry or I got this wrong. Mm-hmm. It creates buy-in for people because they understand that you're a human being. I told the story last week that early on in the days of church ministry, that I had someone that said to me that they could not relate to me because I never share any of my weaknesses or where I struggle and where I fail.
Right.
And I don't know how we got there to where we think that good leadership comes from people that don't make mistakes. And so I think it's important to acknowledge when you make a mistake or when you're wrong. And if you are that leader and you're in a position of leadership, that you take an opportunity to utilize other people's decisions whenever possible. I do that regularly. I don't know that it's the best decision, but when an employee who is working on the ground, they're there doing the hard work, says, "Hey, I think that we should do this." If at all possible, I will say, "Good, let's do it. Let's try it."
That's what is very challenging for me about like how the government operates.
Sure.
Like, it's a lot of times I know sometimes normal people run for office and they're in Congress or whatever, but it's like there is a separation there that the people are making decisions for other people who there's just a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate leaders who, obviously you can't listen to every opinion and run with it, but I appreciate leaders who want to go to the people that are living in the midst of the circumstance and hear from them. They know best.
Well, it's the same thing in parenting, right? Like, good leaders take the long road. They understand that in the short term you might have to make sacrifices, but it leads to long-term success. And I said this to a business partner recently, that you can come up as the owner or the manager or the person in charge, you can come up with and answer all of the questions for everyone and think for everyone. But the problem with that is that organization or that person is never going to grow into a position where they can take over for you or save you time and keep you from having to be there all the time. And so the temptation in business is to take the short route and make all of the decisions because you don't have to involve everyone else. Same thing in parenting, where you just make really, really quick decisions for everyone. But the problem with that is you become chained to that method of leadership where you haven't empowered anyone. And so to your point, when it comes to government, when people are elected to a position of power, it's very hard to let go of that power to empower other people. But it's really the only way to win in the long run, and this is something that, Amy and I have tried to implement with our children. Like, the sooner I can give you more responsibility and empower you to make decisions for yourself, I'm going to do it. And sometimes I don't even know if it's the best decision for them. I'll communicate that if it makes sense. And I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead, try it. Let's give you an opportunity to think for yourself and see how that works out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's creating a culture of empowerment that gets people to trust you even more, which includes saying you're sorry, or I missed it, or I should have done that better. I could have said that better. Forgive me for this.
Yep.
That's empowering. That doesn't steal your power. That empowers you.
Well, I mean, it creates trust and respect.
For sure. For the people that are in a position to receive it, that they're there and they get it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I had someone come up to me this past week who, like me, I'm a recovering performance-driven person. I still struggle with it, but it's something that I have worked on now for several years, of getting out of this idea of just being a performance-driven person. And it often leads you to deal with paralysis or being stuck, because your idea of success is not growth and feeling the pain and stretching as much as it is not making mistakes. Mm-hmm. And so I mentioned to this person, and if you're watching this, you know who you are, that there's a difference.
Are they watching?
I don't think so. I don't think they're watching right now, but maybe they will. It just comes back to there is a huge difference between being right and being good, or pursuing, like, being a good person versus trying to do and be what the moment requires you to be. And so I know this person to be very performance driven, and they don't want to make mistakes. And it's like, you need to embrace the idea of not getting everything right, and instead pursue what you feel called to pursue, even though you might get it wrong or make mistakes, because trying to be right is going to get in your way, or trying to be good is going to get in your way. And I don't think we understand that. I think it keeps us from taking necessary risks when it comes to personal growth and development.
So you're saying, rather than being right, you need to.
Well, I mean, if I think it's, if I were going to choose very specific words, I would say that it's, don't try to be good. Try to live into whatever the situation is asking of you. Like, make the best decision that you can make in the moment, but be careful not to be this performance-driven person that has to get it right all of the time, and has to have everybody thinking about you as if you don't make mistakes and you're just a good person. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think we can just become really paralyzed and stuck in our journey when we are so concerned about getting it wrong, getting things wrong.
Okay, so give an example. That's like really vague.
If I used a restaurant environment, if somebody has, one of the things that I say at Table 33 is, let's not live off of a checklist. We need to have a checklist and a sense of what our responsibilities are, but we're not here just to get objectives done, right? We're here to know what we're supposed to do, but then bring our own personality and our own vibe and our own energy to our responsibilities, and not be so worried about getting everything absolutely right. Mm-hmm. So, if you think of a bartender, of course, a cocktail requires, very specific measurements. But if you are so concerned about getting it wrong, what we know from a psychological standpoint is you attract more of what you put your attention on. And so if I'm scared half to death of making mistakes, you are more likely to make mistakes. And that's why a lot of performance-driven people don't advance and get stuck on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people out there that know they should be further along or want to be further along that are not, because they're stuck. And one of the greatest reasons for being stuck is because we are so performance driven and we are so fearful of making mistakes. We can't relax and be ourselves.
Yeah.
And there are certain things in life that require you just like letting go and opening up your hands and doing your best and being okay at that versus trying to get everything right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know how you live a life if you are trying to get it right all the time.
I'm going to say bye to everyone.
Yeah.
Hold on.
That's
Mr. Cooper, although not a new concept, servant leadership is a necessary wave of the future for successful organizations. 100%, Coop. I agree. The importance of servant leadership, showing people the way.
Yep.
What were you going to say? I'm signing off. We will see everyone soon.
I was just saying that I don't, it is very difficult to actually live a full life if you're always afraid of screwing things up.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I just don't know how you ever even leave the house. If your motivation is to get it right, it would be very difficult to even try because the fear would be so paralyzing of getting it wrong. I mean, I just don't know how. And I'm not saying I don't understand it because I've been very performance driven as well. But my thing is like, I'm scared versus I'm scared, but what the hell? Like,
sure.
That's kind of, I try and tend to say like, well, I'd rather try this than be bored.
Well, I think that's what it comes back to, though, is that idea of, where's your sense of self-worth coming from? And if it's attached to something outside that moves, then you're going to be in trouble because every time you feel the waves or something shift, you're going to retreat. And so I think, you and I have talked about this in the past on previous episodes, that I think the number one trait for individuals to look for in a spouse is personal security, a positive sense of self-worth. And, what I will say to my children is if who you are interested in does not have a tangible sense or positive sense of self-worth, you could be in trouble because they're going to look to you to be the thing potentially that validates them. If they're not looking to you, they're looking to their job. They're looking to some sort of exterior outside force to validate who they are. And that's why a lot of people are not happy. People get irritated when they feel out of control. The number one emotion that comes from feeling out of control is anger. You become angry when the objective or the goalpost is always moving, when things are being pulled out from under you. Relationally speaking, what that looks like is when we put our sense of self-worth in an outside force or factor, because you can't control that outside force or factor. And so then when it moves, you get all upset and nobody can be around you, or you make everyone anxious because your center, which was not your center, it was outside of you, moved and you feel insecure. Right. And that's true if you're in high school dating someone. That's true if you're new in business and picking employees to work for you. It's true if you've been married for 30 years. It still comes back to, though you are going to be one, the two of you are going to be two pieces that make one. Like, it still comes back to, like, you have to be, you have to have a positive sense of self-worth. Maybe the most important thing I've ever said on this podcast, maybe the heaviest reality is just coming back to, I know you've been married for a long time, or I know you've been a business owner for a long time, or what have you, set up the scenario however you want to. It still comes back to, as the world continues to evolve, things continue to die, things continue to be born, things continue to turn over. You have got to have a positive sense of self-worth, or you are going to have a hard time with your life.
I'm just giving some space because you said that's the biggest thing you've ever said. I wanted to
sure
add weight. So how do you know?
I mean,
how do you know that the person, what would you tell your kids, like, when looking for a spouse when they're of age? What would you tell them? Like, how do you gauge that? that a person is confident in who they are and aware of their own sense of worth and not looking to them.
Well, I think it comes, one of the things that you can start with, and this is something that parents should start early with their children with, like, help them understand it. And it's harder than ever with the children that are, young right now, because they are up against things that we were not up against, with like a stimulating image every 3 seconds on TikTok. TikTok's the worst. It's worse than any other platform has ever been when it comes to instant stimulation. And I mean, this is part of why they created it the way that they created it, that you literally can.
I thought that wasn't a thing anymore. Something happened with China.
No,
people are still doing TikTok?
Yeah, they're still doing TikTok.
Oh.
But it's just, I don't have anything against the platform.
Oh, I thought you did.
In that sense. Well, there's privacy issues that I don't know if they've fixed them or not. What I'm saying is, being stimulated all of the time with instant gratification, it is very hard to teach a child or a young person today that they need to have their sense of well-being and gratification coming from within versus without. And it's like, think about all the adults that you interact with that depend upon everything on the outside being right in order for them to have a good attitude and be excited about their life. It is an absolute recipe for disaster. And the reason why your ass is alone is because you have built that life around dependence upon outside things in order for you to be happy and excited about your life. And excitement about life is just a measurable amount of energy. That's what it is. And so you're miserable and you're making everyone around you miserable because you have been allowed to make outside things your factor. And so when you're young, especially when we were young and didn't have, all of the devices, we use sports and other things, going out to the movies to tell ourselves, I'm happy, I'm in a good place, everything's okay. And that's still happening, and it's just happening in other ways. But most people are self-medicating themselves with just one more thing from the outside, even if it's looking forward to it. It's a Tuesday, and I'm looking forward to going and getting a beer with a friend on Friday. And that's fine as long as that doesn't become your sense of happiness and your positive sense of self-worth. You can't do things. You can't go to where you need to go ultimately if you have a low sense of self-worth.
Okay, so somebody is listening and the pieces are starting to come together where it's like, oh, actually this kind of resonates in how I interact with my spouse or my kids. Like, I think that's a huge one. Your kids move out or your kids
that's a good one.
Charlie, your son is about to get his license. Like, he's going to be living his own life pretty soon. And it's like, you start to feel like you're getting a little off kilter. I'm not speaking specifically of you, of course, but, what? I mean, and I know it's like, oh, start to pour into yourself and have a better view of yourself. Like, I need like a real answer.
Sure. Maybe a real example. Number one, acknowledge it's going to be hard. It's like everything else. When you have become dependent upon something, it takes some real intentional focus to break your dependence upon that thing.
Well, and I feel like, let's be really real here. Like, we were talking about, well, I don't know if the episode, who knows what episode this is, but we were talking about fight or flight. I think that episode's come out already.
Yeah, that was
when
the
it's
last
like,
episode.
Honestly, this is a thing for us all. It's not just like people who are quote unquote unhealthy. Like, I deal with it, you deal with it. And so I think to be honest, like I get really excited about like my work.
Sure.
And so if that were taken away from me, like for example, today the girls' daycare was closed and I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to have to be at home today with my kids, which is like, I'm making that sound like a horrible thing, but I get really excited about my Tuesdays because they're full of different work things.
Right.
And so probably I put a little bit too much like excitement about my life into my work.
Sure.
So I'm just saying that to say, like, I don't know that this is like an us versus them type of conversation.
No,
more
of course
it's like,
not.
it's really easy to fall into this.
Well, you have to think of it as a bicycle and like bicycle pedals. Your sense of self-worth is going to make everything better. And you just have to run a constant monitor to make sure that there's not a shift from your sense of self-worth getting into the better versus keeping your sense of self-worth centered in who you are, right? And so the problem with good things is that they come packed with liabilities. And so if I show up and I am, my sense of self-worth is rooted and grounded in nothing from the outside, I'm going to be so much better at everything I do, from my relationships to my job to everything else. Where the liability is, and that is once you start to see things really work at work or in that relationship, it gets so good that you can transfer your sense of self-worth into that goodness.
Right.
When the trick is having that conversation with yourself and being able to journal that out and remind yourself, like, be mindful of the good days, because the good days are where we are most vulnerable to being confused or deceived into thinking that this is the source of my goodness. No, the sense of your goodness was that you showed up and were whole, and your sense of self-worth was rooted in you with nothing added and nothing taken away. The moment that starts to work for you is where you can get confused and be like, oh, look at what I built, or look at how much money I'm making. No, you had that opportunity in the first place because your sense of self-worth was rooted and grounded in you. And so take that in a dating relationship. You finally get to a place where you don't have to have somebody telling you how good looking you are or calling you or texting you in order to believe in yourself. That positive sense of self-worth leads to a relationship where you find someone that like really does it for you and you want to be with them the rest of your life. You could get into trouble because now all of a sudden you have that mirror or that person reflecting how pretty you are, how smart you are, whatever it is. And you want to make that your center. You want to make that the center of your self-worth. Mm-hmm. And that is a recipe for disaster because that person can now manipulate you based on how they're interacting with you. And then your attitude and sense of self-worth starts to fluctuate, which gets to them. And now they're not as interested. And now they pull back, which bothers you, which makes you less of a person, which makes them pull back even more. And so the trick is not avoiding the things that you fall in love with or that give you a lot of energy. It's just reminding yourself that there's always going to be the self-care and the intentional work of staying rooted and grounded in a healthy sense of self-worth, which is nothing added, nothing taken away. I am valuable because I am who I am. I have the gifts that I have. I have the interests that I have. And with a little bit of hard work and the right mentality over a long period of time, things will work out for me.
Okay, so back to the original question, or a couple of questions
Sure.
ago that I asked you and then I cut you off. Say more about, like, really practically speaking, what someone does when they realize that they have placed all of their value in like a person or a thing and not themselves. Like, how do you start kind of untangling all of that?
I have said this and it totally does not make sense to most, but I'll explain and then it will make sense and you'll think I'm really smart. I would say start doing 1 day a week where you don't eat food and all you do is drink water. Fast. And the reason for that is more than your stomach yelling at you, your mind and everything else are going to yell at you because you are not giving, yourself what you want at any given time. And so most people kind of like nurse coffee throughout the day or some sort of something in order to give themselves what they want. And I think it's important to acknowledge that feelings or thoughts are not facts. Just because you crave something doesn't mean you necessarily need it. It's often some sort of thing to balance out how you feel in the moment. And so, I would say you need to get used to start doing things that are opposite of what you want to do, which is going to pull you out of any hole or ditch that you're stuck in that says, if I have this, I will be happy. And so that's why cardio, regular cardio is important, or working out is important, or fasting is important, or following some sort of eating plan that purposefully doesn't allow you to have whatever you want whenever you want it. When you start starving yourself, you will wake up to see, man, I have really built my sense of happiness around outside factors. And my sense of happiness is another way of saying my sense of self-worth. And so I can kind of adjust my sense of self-worth by, creating factors that say, this is going to be painful. I don't really want to do it, but I'm going to make myself do something that I don't want to do. And then that will get me closer to being able to say, you know what, like, I am who I am without these things added to my life or taken away from my life. Added to my life is like, I don't need to make this much money or have this person in my life or these things going right to feel good. Taken away is, I don't have to have this pain taken away or this person taken away or this dilemma taken away in order to feel good about my life. All of life is an invitation to separate yourself from exterior forces or situations or people that would tell you if you had this, you would be happier. It's just not true. And that's the one thing that rich people know that most people don't know. Money and things don't make you happy. Very few people are wealthy enough to understand that. And so the common denominator between someone in poverty and someone that is filthy rich is that we all tend to have a form of poverty in our life. And that poverty is, if I had this, I would be happier. If I had this, I would be wealthier. And whether you're making $10 a week or $10 million a week, it's the same. You are in poverty if you have built your sense of self-worth around exterior things. And it is much easier to do that if you have money than if you don't.
Sure. Okay, so we often, I think we've talked about it on here, refer to this like emotion wheel.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to hear this conversation and just, and to listen to this conversation and hear you say like, well, I just need to always be happy.
Sure.
And I think that's BS.
Sure.
So can you, like, what are you saying? Can you say what you're saying while also inviting people to like feel the, just the wide range of like emotions in the human experience?
Yeah. That obviously is something that I have not been good at. I have said before that I've kind of fallen into this like 1990s business CEO, leader, military mentality. It's like project what you want everybody else to be. And I think there is a something about healthy leaders projecting positivity or staying calm in hard situations. But I think that's different than allowing yourself, as you have said, to feel your feelings in any given moment. I think that one of the areas that I'm being invited to grow in my understanding of who I am as a human being is the difference between what I feel and who I am. And so just because you feel anxious or fearful doesn't mean you need to be anxious or fearful. Feelings are like signs on the highway. They're pointing you places, or they're telling you things. And what I have learned, over the last several months as I've looked more into it and we're using this emotion wheel is there's a difference between basing my sense of self-worth in who I am and what I know to be true about my value with nothing added and nothing taken away, and how I might feel at any given moment. And part of transferring your sense of self-worth from exterior things to an intrinsic sense of value is by acknowledging how you feel in any given moment and separating that from who you are. So I can feel fearful, or I can feel discouraged, or I can feel anxious and leave it at that and say, instead of saying I am anxious, I think the train would be I feel anxious, and then I go to why do I feel anxious? And the answer might be because I just had a hard conversation with this person, my mom. I just had a hard conversation with my boyfriend. I just had a hard conversation with my husband. That made me feel anxious. Why did it make me feel anxious? Because he said some things that I feel like were not true and I am being misunderstood. That's not what I meant. Okay, so you feel anxious because you feel misunderstood. Correct. What that might lead to is, well, my sense of self-worth or my sense of value comes in feeling understood, and that I have to feel understood all of the time in order to not be anxious. And so there's all of those steps there that say, okay, well, I feel anxious, and here's why I feel anxious. Oh, well, obviously I have to have a conversation with people that I love and care about, and that's how our relationship is going to grow to work through these things. But I can acknowledge that ultimately, deep down, it is my desire to feel understood or not be misrepresented that is causing this feeling. But the feeling is the feeling, and who I am is who I am. And it's actually a really good thing that you don't want to be misunderstood in that situation. Instead, you want to say, this is who I am, and it's important for me that you know how I'm thinking about this situation. And so I think you're right that we don't want people to walk away from this hearing that you can't feel your feelings. That's an important thing, that you have to feel your feelings. But we need to be able to differentiate how we feel from who we are. And who we are is where we're really getting into, these are the things that make me who I am, with nothing added and nothing taken away. It's very hard to become anxious when you are basing your sense of self-worth on intrinsic things, on internal things, like the people that love you, that you know are unconditionally committed to you, that don't care if you fail or not, or don't care about how much money you have in your bank account. Like, people are mirrors that reflect ourselves and our worth.
Okay, but don't you think that what you just said is a way of like placing your worth on other people's love for you?
I think you could very easily, here's where I think like the fine difference is. When I need your love in order to feel good about myself, or I need there not to be conflict between you and I in order to feel good about myself, that right there is where I feel like it crosses the line. Versus, hopefully, and I know there are some people that this is not true for them, but hopefully we all have a small handful of people that we know care more about us and who we are, whether we're getting it right or wrong, with all of our flaws, all of those things. And we can say that this is who I am, with nothing added or taken away. And I'm valuable, and I at least have a few people that know that's what makes me who I am. Again, I think where it gets dangerous is when I have to have things be okay, or I have to feel like there are no issues between us in order for me to feel good about myself. Mm-hmm. That's where I think that fine, subtle line is.
Yeah. I mean, I think it gets harder the more responsibility you have.
Sure.
As a leader or a parent or whatever, because people often like don't reflect back to successful people that they're successful, or like when you're doing a good job. I mean, people just love to call out when you screw up. And so I think it's good to like be able to screw up and see that people are still cheering for you, but it's also like, you really cannot base anything, people's love for you or commitment to you, on, how you're doing, period. Because people really don't they think that everyone else is congratulating you or cheering you on. And so they don't do it themselves.
Well, and, you have people that have varying opinions about this. I remember at a global leadership summit, probably 15 years ago, Colin Powell made the statement that leadership is lonely. And then I had a mentor or a coach that said, that's not true. And then he quoted John Maxwell that said, good leaders take people with them. But I would tend to agree with Colin Powell on this one, that even if you are taking people with you, at the end of the day, as a leader, by the very nature of the word, it means you are out in front, even if it's just by a little bit, than the people that you have with you. And so I do think that because of the unique nature of leading anything, a family, a business, a relationship, that there are things that you deal with that the weight of them tend to make you feel alone. And that's something, in a lot of cases you have to be okay with until someone comes along that has been there and understands the unique pressure that you're up against. I'm in a unique position to be leading a lot of people. And I would say on a regular basis, it's less than 3 people. I can't even say a month that say something positive to me about what I'm doing and how I'm leading. It's very small. And most people don't say anything because they think everybody else is saying something. And so, again, that's why people that deal with personal insecurity can't lead others. They can't be good shift leaders. They can't be good general managers. They can't be good business owners because they can't help it. Their vantage point, where they think and operate and look from, is all tainted through personal insecurity. You can't be a good leader or a good owner and be personally insecure. You'll drive people absolutely nuts without knowing it because it ultimately all comes back to you. Mm-hmm. You can't be a good owner if you have to go in the middle of the night because a pipe burst or something didn't get done and you have to do it. And your first thought is, I can't believe these people aren't doing their job. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work. And so when we get into, sacrificial leadership, it's really, it just comes back to, I'm not owed a thing. I don't deserve a thing. I do what I do because I am who I am, not because of what's coming to me or the praise that I want from other people.
Right. You're going to be very disappointed if you're waiting for praise from other people.
Not going to happen. I mean, it happens here and there. It's rare, it's not the norm. And a lot of times when people are praising you, it's because they want something from you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and those people are very quick to, I think we've done an episode on this.
Oh, yeah. If they love you quickly, they'll leave you quickly.
Right.
Boy, isn't that the truth.
Very true.
Beware of the people that sing your praises quickly. They are the first ones out the door when you screw up.
For sure. Yep.
Learned that one the hard way a couple times.
Once or twice.
Yeah. But listen, if there's one thing you're going to go after in order to live the life and have the life that you want to have, you have got to have a positive sense of self-worth that is rooted and grounded in who you are with nothing added and nothing taken away. Please, 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 please quit looking to your husband, your spouse, your child, your grandchild, your job, your friend, your financial situation, your assets, your liabilities. Please, oh, please quit looking at exterior forces and using them as an excuse as to why you're not living an epic life. You have absolutely everything you need in order to live an epic life. And the moment you learn to divorce yourself from all exterior things when it comes to your positive sense of self-worth, you will give yourself a fighting chance because now your energy will not be plugged into or dependent on exterior forces or factors in order for you to operate. When you can unplug from all of those exterior messages and have your battery be coming from the inside of who you are, you then begin to give yourself a chance to start that business or to start that relationship or to obtain that position of leadership and thrive. You got to quit looking at the exterior things and blaming everything on them. You are where you are because you are who you are. If you need to get help, get help.
Well, you need to stop doing it for yourself so that you can start living your own epic life. And you need to stop doing it for the people that you're putting all the pressure on.
For sure.
It's way too much pressure to be looking for your own self-worth in somebody else and your spouse and your kids and whatever, your boss. Way too much pressure. It's not fair.
You were made to be epic. Nothing added, nothing taken away. You're not epic because you're trying to plug into other sources of power to become epic. And all that is doing is making you an energy suck to other people, and they don't want to be around you.
It's true.
Figure out what makes you you and unplug from all those exterior sources. Pursue your passion. And you'll find the energy that you need.